She stood on my porch, arms crossed, a smug grin spreading across her face. "You have 24 hours to vacate," she said, waving a paper that looked more like something printed from Google than a real legal notice. I looked at her, then at the HOA stamp she'd drawn with a blue pen. I almost laughed. Almost. "This is my house, Karen," I said calmly. "Bought it 6 months ago. Paid it full." She smirked, tilting her head. "Not according to the neighborhood agreement. We voted. You're not compliant with community standards." Behind her, 2 of her friends from the HOA board stood like bodyguards, whispering to each other. One of them was recording on her phone. "You can't evict someone because you don't like their porch color," I said, stepping closer. Karen's smile faded for a second. Then she snapped her fingers, signaling a man in a polo shirt. He walked up holding what looked like a badge. "Sir, I'm with HOA enforcement. You need to leave immediately or we'll have to call real law enforcement." That's when my patience ended. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my phone. "Good idea," I said, dialing. "Let's call them together." Her fake officer froze. Karen's eyes widened. "What do you think you're doing?" I didn't answer. When the dispatcher picked up, I said, "Yes, I'd like to report a trespass on my property, possible impersonation of an officer." Karen turned pale. "That's not necessary," she snapped, her voice suddenly shaking. "Oh, it's necessary, because this isn't an HOA community. The HOA was dissolved 2 years ago. You're standing on private property." For a moment, no one said a word. The man with the fake badge quietly took a step back. Karen tried to keep her composure, but I could see the panic behind her eyes. Then, trying to save face, she barked, "Fine, we'll let the judge handle it. You'll regret this." I smiled slightly. "Good, because I've been waiting for this moment." She frowned. "What does that mean?" I looked straight into her eyes. "It means I already have the paperwork ready for court, and the real HOA president's signature proving you're the one trespassing and falsifying documents." Her lips parted, but no words came out. She just stared at me, her fake authority melting away. The cop sirens echoed down the street, and in that moment, Karen's bravado disappeared completely. I didn't know it yet, but that was only the beginning. The real shock came when the judge saw the evidence.
Karen strutted into the courthouse like she owned the building. Her heels clicked across the floor with every ounce of fake confidence she had left. I followed behind, carrying a folder stuffed with documents, the ones she thought didn't exist. She didn't even glance at me when we entered the courtroom. Instead, she walked straight up to the clerk's desk and loudly said, "This man has been illegally occupying property that violates HOA standards." She said it like she was announcing a crime. People turned to look. The judge, an older man with tired eyes and a calm voice, raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, do you have ownership documents?" Karen grinned, pulling out her crumpled papers. "Right here, Your Honor. The HOA notice, voted by the community." The judge took the paper, read it for 5 seconds, and sighed. "This is a Word document, Ms. Parker." Her smile twitched. "It's official." "No," he interrupted. "It's typed, unsigned, and has no legal stamp. Where did you get this?" Her voice softened. I made it myself." You could hear people in the back chuckle. I stayed quiet. The judge turned his gaze to me. "Mr. Daniels, your turn." I stepped forward and handed over a clean folder. "Your Honor, here's my deed, purchase record, and the HOA dissolution order filed in 2022. You'll see her name there too, as a member of the board that voted to dissolve it." Karen's head snapped toward me. She shouted, "That's not true." The judge flipped through the pages, his expression turning from neutral to disbelief, then to something close to amusement. "Miss Parker," he said slowly, "you filed a complaint against the man for living in his own house, using authority that no longer exists, and forged HOA documents. Karen started to stammer. I was only trying to protect the neighborhood. He was painting the door red. Someone in the gallery laughed. The judge gave her a sharp look, but couldn't hide a small smile. Miss Parker, that is not a legal reason for eviction. I stood still, calm. Every second she spoke, she buried herself deeper. Then came the twist she didn't expect. The judge leaned forward, eyes fixed on her. Also, this court received a counterclaim this morning. Mr. Daniels has filed a harassment and trespassing report against you and your so-called HOA enforcement officer. Karen's jaw dropped. What? I spoke softly. You wanted to go legal, Karen, so I did. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. She looked at me, her face pale, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to argue but couldn't. The judge's gavel struck once. We'll continue this with evidence review, but from what I see, Miss Parker, you may want to hire an attorney. Her face went completely still, the kind of silence that comes when someone realizes the game is over.
When we walked out of that courtroom, Karen's mask of confidence had completely cracked. Her so-called HOA team trailed behind her, whispering in panic. One of them, the guy who had pretended to be an officer, avoided eye contact altogether. I stopped near the courthouse steps, letting them walk ahead. She turned back once, glaring at me like she still had some control left. "This isn't over," she hissed. I just smiled. "You're right. It's only getting started." Later that afternoon, I got a call from the sheriff's department. "Mr. Daniels, we verified your claim," the deputy said. "That badge her man used? Totally fake. He's being brought in for questioning." I leaned back in my chair. "Good. Make sure you check her emails, too. She's been printing forged HOA notices." There was a pause. "We already did. You'll want to see what we found." The next day, I met them at the station. They showed me a file, screenshots, messages, even group chats. Karen had been sending her little board members fake fines, fake citations, even threatening homeowners with made-up bylaws. She'd collected almost $15,000 in fake HOA fees. "She really thought she was the law," the deputy muttered. I stared at the screen. Not anymore. That evening, as I pulled into my driveway, I saw something that made my stomach twist. A red spray-painted word across my garage. "Thief!" Karen's car was parked across the street. Her headlights pointed straight at my house. She sat inside, glaring at me like she wanted to burn the place down with her eyes. I walked up to her window. "You really want to keep playing this game?" I asked quietly. She rolled down the glass halfway, her tone sharp. "You embarrass me in court! I'll make sure you lose everything!" I smiled slightly. "Funny thing, Karen, that camera above my garage, it's been recording this whole time." Her face drained of color. "What?" "Yeah, and it's connected directly to the sheriff's office now, so every time you step near my property, they get a live feed." Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tight I could see her knuckles whiten. I leaned closer. "You should probably save yourself the trouble. They already have your messages, your fake documents, and now your vandalism." She didn't say another word, just drove off, tires screeching, fear finally cracking through her pride. I stood there watching her taillights fade. But something in me knew. This wasn't just about an angry neighbor anymore. She had crossed a line she couldn't come back from. A week later, the hearing for my counterclaim began. Karen looked nothing like the self-proclaimed HOA queen she once was. Her hair was messy, her confidence gone, and her lawyer, clearly unprepared, kept shuffling through papers like he wished he were anywhere else. I sat quietly beside my attorney, who had everything neatly arranged: photos, video footage, timestamps, and the sheriff's official report. The judge entered, and the tension in the room was so thick you could almost hear Karen's heartbeat. The judge spoke first. "Miss Parker, it appears you've been impersonating an HOA authority, collecting fake fees, and filing false claims against your neighbors. Do you deny these charges?" Karen opened her mouth, but her lawyer quickly whispered, "Don't speak." She ignored him. "It wasn't like that, Your Honor. I was just trying to protect the community from—" "From what?" I interrupted calmly. "People living peacefully on their own property?" Her head snapped toward me, eyes burning. "You don't deserve that house. It ruins the neighborhood's look." The judge slammed his gavel. "That's enough, Miss Parker." The courtroom went dead silent. The judge turned to my lawyer. "Mr. Daniels, I've reviewed your evidence. The video clearly shows Miss Parker vandalizing your garage, sending threats, and conspiring with others to collect false HOA dues. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor, and we've also included a bank statement showing where those payments went, directly into her personal account." Karen froze. Her mouth hung open. The judge leaned back, rubbing his forehead. "Miss Parker, you didn't just abuse authority, you created it from thin air." The crowd whispered again. Someone even laughed quietly. Then came the part I didn't expect. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Daniels, considering the harassment and damage you've endured, the court is awarding you full restitution. Miss Parker will be required to pay all repair costs, a fine for falsifying legal documents, and serve community service under the supervision of the Sheriff's Department." Karen's lawyer sighed. She stood there shaking, her eyes glistening with tears she was too proud to shed. The judge looked at her one last time. "This court reminds you, Miss Parker, that owning property doesn't give you ownership over people." The gavel hit the bench. Case closed. As I stepped outside, the same neighbors who once avoided eye contact now came up to me, smiling, clapping my shoulder, and even apologizing for believing her lies. One man said, "You did what we all were too scared to do." I just smiled. Sometimes you don't need to fight loud, you just need to fight smart. Later that evening, as the sun set behind my house, I stood in my driveway, the same one she tried to take from me, and watched the sheriff's truck drive past. In the passenger seat was Karen, wearing an orange vest, picking up trash along the roadside as part of her service. I couldn't help but chuckle. Justice, for once, had perfect timing.